Hold on. Before you apologize again, pause for a second, because that one habit might be quietly lowering your value in people's eyes without you realizing it. Have you noticed you apologize automatically, at work, with friends, even at home? Not because you're guilty, but because you don't want tension. If that's you, you're not being nice. You're building a habit that can backfire. If any of that sounds like you, then you've been living under a dangerous idea without even knowing it. You were taught that saying sorry makes people like you more, trust you more, and see you as a good person. Here's the truth. Unnecessary apologies slowly reduce your authority. They send a signal that you're unsure of yourself, even when you're completely right. Your apologies aren't just fixing problems. They might be slowly training people to see you as weaker, softer, and easier to control. Hundreds of years ago, a man named Machiavelli studied rulers and power games, and he saw that leaders who kept explaining themselves and saying sorry ended up losing respect, losing control, and often losing everything. Today I'll break down what over-apologizing does to your image, your relationships, and your confidence, and how to replace weak apologies with calm, respectful communication that keeps your self-respect intact. I'm not telling you to become cold or cruel, and I'm not saying you should never admit a real mistake. There is a huge difference between calmly owning what you did and begging for forgiveness just to keep everyone happy. In a world where people judge confidence fast, apologizing on autopilot makes you easier to dismiss, interrupt, and underestimate. By the end of this video, you'll know when to stay quiet, when to stand firm, and when to speak with strength instead of apology, so you stop giving away your power and start keeping it where it belongs, with you. Number 1. Constant apologizing makes you look smaller than you really are. I want you to really notice what happens to you when you say, "I'm sorry" for every little thing. Your posture changes without you noticing. You speak with hesitation, you rush your words, and you start acting like you're in the way instead of being part of the room. You may think it's politeness, but it often comes across as low self-worth. People stop feeling you there. They interrupt you more, ignore your input, and slowly start treating your words like they don't carry weight. The world is full of people who walk in like they belong, who talk like their words matter, and who sit like any chair they use is meant for them. When you apologize for basic things like speaking up or asking questions, you unintentionally tell people you're unsure, and confident people will naturally take the lead. And the more you do that, the more others believe it. They don't always do this because they're bad people. They do it because humans naturally respect those who stand strong and ignore those who keep shrinking. Respect usually follows the person who stays grounded and fades from the person who keeps retreating. Machiavelli watched this with kings and rulers long ago. The ones who begged for approval and tried too hard to please everyone lost control fast, while the ones who stood firm, even when people didn't like it, stayed in charge. You don't have to be scary or rude, but you do have to stop saying sorry for existing, for walking through a door, for taking a turn to speak. You are allowed to be in the room. You are allowed to stand tall. You are allowed to breathe the same air as everyone else without asking permission first. Right now, I want you to decide that from today on, you won't apologize for simply being here. And if you need a simple reminder, say this to yourself, out loud or in your mind: I belong here, unapologetically. Number 2. When you apologize too easily, some people start expecting you to bend first every time there's tension. Think about it like this. The first time you apologize to someone, especially when you weren't really wrong, they start feeling like they have the upper hand. Not because they're evil, because your apology makes them think you're accepting a lower position in that moment. After that, they start expecting the same reaction from you every time. So next time there's even a small problem, or even nothing wrong at all, they look to you to fix it by saying sorry. They may not plan this on purpose, but slowly they start to pay extra attention to everything you say and do, trying to find reasons to feel upset, so you'll apologize again, and they'll feel like they're the one in control. You think you're just being polite, keeping the peace, smoothing things over, but you're unintentionally teaching them a pattern. If they act upset, you'll rush to fix it, even if you didn't cause it. Over time, a pattern forms. They get bothered, you say sorry, they feel strong. Again and again. Soon, you notice something strange. The people you apologize to the most are the ones who seem annoyed with you the most, even when you do almost nothing wrong. That's not bad luck. That's conditioning. You didn't just calm the moment. You trained them to expect you to fold first. Machiavelli saw this with powerful people long ago. When a ruler gave in too much, people around them learned that pushing, complaining, and acting offended was the fastest way to control the leader's behavior. The same thing happens in your life, just on a smaller scale. And the problem is that expectation usually keeps growing with time. No matter how many times you apologize, it's never enough, because if they ever felt full, they would lose that rush of being above you. So they keep raising the bar, getting touchier, finding new problems to pin on you, just to pull you back into the same loop where you always explain yourself. This is why you can't fix people like this by apologizing more. You only make them more dependent on your weakness. The only way to stop the game is to cut off the fuel. That means not saying sorry just because someone looks upset, not shrinking just because someone sighs or rolls their eyes, not giving in just to stop a tiny argument. Yes, at first they might get louder, more dramatic, more upset, because they miss the feeling of you kneeling. But their need for control is not your job to feed. Your job is to stop handing them your power for free. So from now on, I want you to remember this sentence, and if you can, whisper it to yourself when you feel that old urge to apologize just to calm someone down. I stop feeding this habit. Number 3, every unnecessary apology becomes a label. People don't just hear the words, they remember the role you keep playing. Think of it like this. Every repeated apology becomes part of the image people attach to you. You apologize once for being late, and instead of remembering, they were polite enough to say sorry. Many people remember, this person is not on time. You apologize for a small mistake at school or at work, and instead of thinking, wow, they owned up to it, their brain quietly stamps you as messy or not careful. You say sorry for hurting someone's feelings, even when you didn't mean to, and their mind starts to tag you as the one who keeps causing problems. Over time, it creates an image of you as someone who's always at fault, even when you aren't. And because humans love patterns, after enough tallies, people stop seeing each moment as separate and just tell themselves a simple story. You're the person who is always in the wrong. It doesn't matter if you did 100 things right. Those moments blend into the background. The big emotional memory, the one that sticks, is you lowering your head and admitting fault. Meanwhile, someone else might show up late over and over, forget things, and make mistakes, but they never apologize. Weirdly, people often give them more respect. They think, they must be busy, they must be important, they must have big things going on, simply because that person never marks themselves with the word sorry. You have both made mistakes, but you turned yours into a written record by apologizing, while they let theirs float away unmarked. Over time, this adds up. In their heads, you become the one who's always apologizing, which quickly turns into the one who always does something wrong. Even later, people may still remember the pattern, not the details, because repetition becomes your reputation. Machiavelli noticed that people judge mostly by appearances, not by the full truth. When you're always apologizing, what they see is not your good heart or your effort, but someone who seems to fail again and again. That image can follow you into new jobs, new friendships, even new versions of yourself, unless you decide to stop feeding it. From today on, remember, repetition builds an image, and people react to that image. Ask yourself, do I really want this moment written down as proof that I'm always wrong? Or is this a time when I should simply fix the problem and move forward without bending my neck? You have the right to start a new story, one where you are strong, careful, and worthy of respect, and you don't constantly sign your own name under a list of mistakes. Say this quietly to yourself right now, like you're turning a new page. I choose a stronger identity. Number 4. Over-apologizing can turn you into the default, responsible person, so problems start landing on you even when they shouldn't. People hate feeling guilty, so their minds are always looking for someone else to carry the shame. And when you're the one who always steps forward and apologizes, you teach them, blame sticks to me, not you. A project falls apart, a friend gets upset, plans get messed up, and instead of everyone looking at what they did wrong, their eyes slide straight to you, because you're the one who usually says, "It was my fault, I'm sorry," just to make the bad feeling go away. Think about a group of kids or co-workers. Something breaks, there's an awkward silence, no one wants to speak, and then you, trying to be helpful and kind, jump in with, "Sorry, I should have done better." In that moment, the pressure disappears for them, because someone took responsibility. And if you do it often, they stop questioning it. The more you do this, the more people expect it. They start to believe, without even thinking, that if there is a problem and you are in the room, it must somehow be your issue, because you're the one who always apologizes. Meanwhile, the people who never say sorry often skate right past trouble. They stay quiet when things go wrong, and because they don't admit anything, others assume they must not be the problem. Machiavelli saw this kind of thing long ago with leaders. The ones who grabbed all the blame looked weak and easy to push around, and the ones who refused to bow kept their power. By always saying sorry, you build a little invisible cage around yourself, a role called the one who takes the hit. And after a while, if you stop playing that role, people might even get angry. Why aren't you apologizing like you usually do? But just because they're used to you being the sponge for everyone's mistakes doesn't mean you have to stay that way. You are allowed to let the silence hang and let other people think about their part. You are allowed to say, calmly and clearly, what really happened without throwing yourself under the bus to keep everyone else comfortable. From now on, when you feel that old pull to say sorry for something that isn't yours to carry, take a breath and remind yourself of this new truth. I carry only what's mine. Number 5. Some people don't move on after an apology. They store it, then bring it back when it benefits them. When you say sorry and the other person smiles and says they forgive you, it feels like everything is fixed, right? It feels like the problem is gone, the air is clear, and you can both move on. But many times, that's not what really happens. Instead of truly letting it go, some people remember it as a reference point and bring it up again later. Your apology becomes proof that you were wrong, and they keep that proof for later. Weeks or months go by. You think the issue is dead and buried, And then you have a new argument about something completely different. Suddenly they pull out that old moment like a card and say, "Remember when you did this and even said sorry for it? You always do stuff like this." In that second, you realize your apology didn't erase the past. It actually made it easier for them to use your past against you. The strange thing is, people who never say sorry don't give anyone these little weapons. There are no written records of their mistakes, no "you admitted you were wrong" moments to throw back at them, so they can stand in a fight with a clean-looking record, while you are dragged down by every sorry you ever said. Some people even push you to apologize on purpose, not because they want peace, but because they want something they can bring up any time they need to win. They might look kind when they accept your apology, but somewhere in the back of their mind, they're thinking, "Good, now I have something solid to use later if I need it." Machiavelli watched people and rulers do this too. They pretended to forgive, but they never forgot. And they used those memories as tools to control others in the future. This doesn't mean you must never admit a real wrong thing you did, but it does mean you should understand the cost of throwing out sorry just to make someone happy in the moment. Before you apologize, ask yourself, am I fixing something real, or am I handing this person a memory they can use to keep me small? You deserve relationships where problems are talked through, solved, and truly let go, not stored up like rocks to throw at you later. So from now on, when you feel pushed to say sorry just so someone can say, "I forgive you," and feel powerful, remember this simple promise to yourself: I stay emotionally sharp. Number 6. The biggest damage happens inside you. When you apologize too much, your mind starts believing you're always the problem, and your confidence slowly collapses. Your brain listens to everything you say, especially about yourself. And when you keep saying, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry," your mind starts to take it as a rule. I'm wrong, I'm a problem, I mess things up, I'm not good enough. Hear that message enough times and it stops being just words. It becomes your identity. You start second-guessing every sentence before you say it, thinking, will this upset someone? Will I have to apologize again? You begin to doubt every choice, every idea, even simple things like where to sit or what to ask, because deep down you've taught yourself that if you act boldly, you'll just end up being the bad one again. That bright, warm feeling inside you that once said, "I belong here, my voice matters, I can do things," starts to shrink until only a tiny spark is left. You move through life like a ghost, always checking other people's faces, always trying to guess what they want, always scared of making even a tiny mistake. And the cruel part is, you might look calm on the outside, but inside you feel small, shaky, and tired, like you're carrying a heavy backpack of guilt everywhere you go. Real confidence doesn't come from talking loud or pretending you're tough. It comes from a quiet knowing in your heart that you are allowed to exist, to try, to learn, and to speak without begging for permission. Constant apologies chip away at that knowing, one small piece at a time, until you barely remember what it felt like to trust yourself. Long ago, Machiavelli watched leaders lose themselves this way. They kept bending, kept apologizing, kept trying to please everyone, and in the end, they didn't just lose their power, they lost who they were. You don't have to live like that. You can decide that your inner fire matters more than someone else's momentary comfort. That doesn't mean you ignore real harm or never admit a clear wrong. It means you stop saying sorry for breathing, for having needs, for speaking up, for being human. From now on, your job is to guard that fire the way you'd protect a small flame in the wind. Don't pour water on it with needless apologies. Don't smother it by always making yourself smaller. And don't let anyone talk you into thinking you don't deserve to shine. Feed it instead by standing a little straighter, by saying what you really think in a calm voice, by making choices without asking 10 people if it's okay, by reminding yourself you are not born to be a doormat. Every time you stop yourself from a useless sorry and simply hold your ground, you add one more stick to that fire, and over time it will burn bright again. So right now, as a promise to yourself and not to anyone else, say these words in your head or out loud. I rebuild my confidence daily. Number 7. Sometimes the smartest response is calm control. You don't need to explain yourself to everyone, every time. Most of your life, people have taught you the opposite. If something feels tense, you should talk, fix, smooth, say you're sorry, or else you're rude and cold. That lesson keeps you trapped. Here's the truth. When something goes wrong or feels awkward, that heavy feeling in the air is not always yours to clean up. When you rush to fill the silence with, I'm sorry, you are taking responsibility for everyone else's emotions, and that's way too big a job for any human being. Instead, I want you to picture this. Something happens, maybe a small mistake, maybe just a misunderstanding, and the room gets quiet. Your old habit wants to jump in. Sorry, my bad. But this time, you breathe, keep your shoulders back, your face calm, and you say nothing. You let the quiet just sit there. In that silence, people are forced to look at themselves. They might replay what they did, what they said, how they acted. They might realize, wait, maybe I was the one who was harsh, or maybe this isn't actually their fault. Silence creates pressure, and pressure reveals who's being reasonable and who's not. At first, many people can't handle this. They will poke you with questions, sigh loudly, or say, well, aren't you going to say something? What they really mean is, aren't you going to make this easy for me by taking all the blame like you usually do? Machiavelli understood that restraint often creates more authority than constant explaining. The wise ones did not jump to defend themselves or throw out apologies just to look good. They waited, watched, and spoke only when it truly mattered. That didn't make them heartless, it made them controlled. You can do the same in everyday life. Strategic silence doesn't mean you hide, ignore real problems, or run away. It means you choose your words with care and stop apologizing automatically every time someone shows attitude or frustration. When a real mistake is made, you can still speak in a simple, strong way. Here's what happened. Here's what I'm doing to fix it. No begging, no groveling, no shrinking, just clarity and action. And in all those other moments, the ones that are really about someone else's mood, someone else's drama, someone else's need to feel big, you keep your power by not feeding it. You let the silence do the work instead of sacrificing yourself. At first, this will feel strange, even scary, because you're used to keeping everyone comfortable by bending. But over time, you'll notice something. People will start to think twice before blaming you, snapping at you, or trying to guilt you, because they can no longer count on your automatic apology. They will have to manage their own feelings. That is where your power quietly grows. So from now on, when your tongue wants to jump in with sorry just to fix the moment, press pause, breathe, and ask yourself, is this really mine to carry? Or can I let the quiet speak for me? Remember, you don't owe anyone an apology just for being human, just for existing, just for not making everything perfect for them. You are allowed to stand in the silence without shame.